The twin sons of Zirak Prime beat down on the jagged cliffs and barren plains below. Dust swirled in the dry wind, cutting across the faces of warriors as they prepared for another day of conflict. Among them, a young Ziran named Kyrak stretched his limbs with careful precision. His scales glimmered faintly in the sunlight, green and silver against the ochre rock. He was strong, fast, and confident, a rising star among the Ziran warriors. He had won every duel in the training arenas, bested every soldier in simulations, and carried the pride of his people wherever he went. Today, however, there was an unusual tension in the air. Across the valley, the humans had arrived. Kyrak had seen humans before. Their species was smaller and slower than Zirans, with no natural claws or fangs to defend themselves. Their armor was thick, clumsy, and antiquated by Ziran standards. They looked almost ridiculous when compared to the lithe and gleaming Zirans who moved like shadows over the rocky terrain. Kyrak laughed as he watched the humans march in formation, their cumbersome metal plates clanking with every step. The younger Zirans snickered along with him. "They will not even make it past the first line," Kyrak boasted, flexing his muscular limbs. "Their armor is heavy, their weapons primitive, and their courage is only a rumor. I could tear them apart with one claw." It was subtle, almost hidden beneath the layers of steel, but Kyrak noticed it. For a moment, a flicker of curiosity crossed his mind, quickly buried under pride. "Humans are weak," he hissed to himself. "Confidence is not strength." They were met with a volley of energy blasts and sharp projectiles. Many fell immediately, their armor taking the worst of the blows, absorbing the impact that would have shredded any unprotected human body. Kyrak watched in surprise as the survivors kept moving, adjusting their positions, retreating strategically rather than panicking. They were slow, yes, but precise. Every step seemed calculated, every movement intentional. Kyrak's amusement faltered, replaced by irritation. "Fools," he muttered, narrowing his eyes. "Armor does not make the body clever, they are only lucky." He leaped from a cliffside perch, landing lightly on the dusty ground below. His claws dug into the soil, and he sprinted toward the human lines with unmatched speed, intending to crush them quickly and humiliate them in front of his peers. The humans did not flee. They held their ground, forming a tight circle, weapons raised, eyes scanning for openings. Elias Shaw's voice cut through the chaos. "Hold formation, watch their movements. Stay together." His orders were calm, almost gentle, but they carried authority. Kyrak advanced, striking at a human soldier with a powerful swipe. The man barely flinched. His armor absorbed the strike, and he retaliated with a controlled counter, stepping aside and aiming a precise blow at Kyrak's side. The attack grazed Kyrak, drawing a line of fire across his scales, but it did not slow him. Shocked by the human's composure and skill, Kyrak swung again, faster this time. He struck with claws, tail, and shoulder, but each attack was met with careful parries and measured movements. The humans were slow, yes, but they were not clumsy. They moved like a single organism, covering each other, predicting his strikes in ways he had never experienced. Kyrak felt a twinge of doubt. He had been raised to believe that raw strength and speed could overcome any defense. Yet here were humans, using heavy armor and old-fashioned weapons, yet resisting him effortlessly. He growled in frustration, spinning in a blur of motion. Each attack he launched was blocked, deflected, or absorbed. Every opening he tried to exploit seemed anticipated, countered almost before he could act. The other Zirans began to notice the change in Kyrak. Whispers ran through the ranks. "He is hesitating. The human survives his strike? What is this?" Pride and laughter gave way to confusion and unease. Kyrak's confidence, once unshakable, wavered as he realized these humans were unlike any opponent he had faced. Finally, Kyrak stopped, breathing heavily, claws scraping the rock beneath him. He glared at Captain Elias Shaw, who stood motionless, calm and steady, his armored chest rising and falling evenly. "Step forward," Kyrak growled, his voice trembling slightly with tension. "I will face your leader myself. He will not survive. But choose your attacks wisely." His tone was neutral, almost polite, but there was an unmistakable confidence behind his words. The two warriors faced each other in the center of the canyon. The ground was dusty, scattered with rocks and debris from the initial skirmish. Ziran spectators had gathered, eager to see their champion claim victory over the human leader. They circled around, their eyes wide with expectation, waiting for the clash. Kyrak flexed, showing off his muscular limbs, claws extended and teeth bared in a predatory grin. Elias remained still, surveying him carefully, calm as a rock amidst the chaos. Kyrak struck first. His movements were a blur, claws aimed at Elia's head and shoulders. The human sidestepped, letting the attack slide past him. With surprising agility, Elias shifted and struck with the flat edge of his weapon, tapping Kyrak's arm, not to injure but to demonstrate control. Kyrak snarled, swinging again, harder and faster, but every strike was met with the same result: blocked, deflected, or absorbed. The young Zirin's frustration mounted. He had never faced resistance like this. No human had ever survived his full assault before. Sweat ran down his scales, his breathing came in short gasps, yet he continued attacking. Each movement became wilder, less calculated, more driven by raw emotion than skill. Elias, meanwhile, remained composed. He moved with precision, reacting to every attack, never overextending, never panicking. His armor clanked with each deflection, but it did not slow him. His calm presence unnerved Kyrak further. It was not fear, not uncertainty, just an unwavering confidence that seemed to mock the young Zirin's arrogance. Finally, after what felt like hours to Kyrak but was only minutes, he stopped. He crouched, claws scraping the canyon floor, breathing hard, glaring at the human. What are you?" he spat. "Your armor, it cannot protect you forever. You are only lucky. You have strength, yes, but you waste it when you fight with only pride and anger." He wanted to strike again to prove his dominance, but there was a hesitation, a pause that left him unsteady. The spectators murmured. Some whispered that the human was strange, different, beyond what they had learned. Others feared that Kyrak's hesitation might cost him his reputation. The young Zirin's heart pounded. He had never been uncertain in a duel, never been stopped by anything less than death itself. Elias took a slow step forward, armor clinking. "Do you see now?" he asked gently. "Strength is more than claws, speed, or scales. You have potential, but it is wasted when you do not see the world as it is." He wanted to deny it, to roar and strike, to show the humans they were nothing. But a strange feeling crept into him, curiosity. Awe almost at the calm, measured confidence of this human leader. He could see it in the eyes, the stance, the way Elia's shifted weight predicted attacks. This human was strong, not in brute force, but in something deeper, something that Kyrak did not yet understand. The young warrior straightened, claws retracting slightly. The canyon seemed to hold its breath. Elias watched him, calm and steady, as if he knew that the moment of hesitation was as dangerous as any strike. The human's patience, their discipline, and their courage were becoming painfully clear. Kyrak's mind raced. Could he really defeat this human, who moved so deliberately and seemed to anticipate his every move? The thought was almost humiliating. Pride, anger, and doubt collided inside him, leaving him momentarily paralyzed. He had never encountered such a challenge, never faced an opponent who did not fear him, who did not flinch under his claws. And yet, despite the fear building in him, Kyrak felt something else, a spark of respect, the first in his life for a human. He did not know what it meant yet, but it unsettled him. He had laughed at their armor, mocked their appearance, and dismissed them as weak. Now, faced with the calm and controlled presence of Captain Elias Shaw, he realized that humans were not as they seemed. They had strength, cunning, and patience beyond anything he had encountered. The canyon seemed to close around them, dust swirling in the heat, silence falling over the battlefield. The duel was not over, but something had changed. Kyrak no longer laughed. He no longer attacked with the same reckless arrogance. And for the first time, he felt the weight of doubt and the beginning of understanding. The sun hung high over the canyon, casting long shadows that shifted with the slow movement of dust in the wind. Kyrak crouched on a jagged rock, breathing heavily, claws digging into the stone as he tried to regain his composure. His scales, normally bright and gleaming, were dulled with sweat and dust. He had never faced an opponent who resisted his attacks so consistently, nor one who moved with such calm confidence in the middle of battle. The human's formation was not just surviving, it was controlling the flow of the fight. And now, their leader stood before him, unarmored in spirit if not yet in body, calm, precise, and unwavering. Kyrak flexed his claws, trying to shake off the growing unease. He had expected this duel to be simple, a quick demonstration of Zirin's superiority. Instead, he felt an unfamiliar sensation, doubt. The human's armor, he realized, was more than metal. It was a tool that allowed them to focus on strategy rather than instinct. And Elias Shaw, their captain, used it masterfully, moving with a control that left little to chance. Elias spoke, his voice steady and even. "You strike with anger, you rely on speed and strength alone, you do not think." Kyrak snarled, a low guttural sound that echoed against the canyon walls. "And you, human, hide behind your armor. You are slow, I am fast, I am strong. This duel is mine before it begins." He moved faster than a shadow over the canyon floor, striking at Elias with a flurry of blows designed to overwhelm. Each strike was precise, powered by years of training and instinct honed for combat. But Elias did not panic. He shifted, absorbed, and deflected. The heavy human armor clanged with each impact, ringing in Kyrak's ears, but it held firm. The blows that should have torn flesh instead met with resistance that seemed almost unnatural. Kyrak felt frustration rise like a fire in his chest. How could someone survive his attacks so easily? He had crushed opponents many times his size in the arena, yet this human simply withstood his power. And worse, he seemed to anticipate Kyrak's movements, countering not with strength but with timing and precision. It was maddening. The canyon floor became a blur of motion. Kyrak leapt, spun, and struck, his body moving in a rhythm of attack and retreat. Yet every attempt was met with the same result, a deflection, a block, or a sidestep. Sweat ran into his eyes, stinging as he snarled and spun again. He had never faced resistance like this. Never. Elias, meanwhile, remained calm. His movements were deliberate, almost lazy, but every step had purpose. He shifted weight, braced, and countered with only what was necessary. His eyes never left Kyrak's, unblinking, analyzing, calculating. There was no fear, no rush, no anger, only control. And control, Kyrak realized with a chill, was a weapon more dangerous than claws or fangs. Finally, Kyrak spun to strike from above, claws aimed for Elias' shoulders and chest. He moved with a speed that should have been unstoppable. But the human shifted, sidestepping smoothly, letting Kyrak's strike pass harmlessly. Before Kyrak could recover, Elias tapped him lightly on the shoulder, not with force but with perfect timing, and stepped back, standing firmly, ready for the next attack. Kyrak froze for a fraction of a second. His pride bristled, claws raised, but something in his mind hesitated. This human, he was not weak. He was not panicked or flustered. He moved with a calm certainty that shook the foundation of Kyrak's arrogance. The young Ziran's eyes narrowed. "Armor," he hissed through gritted teeth. "It is the armor, that is all. The human hides behind metal." He lunged again, faster this time, striking harder, aiming to break through the steel plates. Elias moved again, absorbing the attack, redirecting Kyrak's momentum, never striking to harm, only to control. And then, with a subtle motion, Elias did something unexpected. He paused. He began to remove a section of his armor. First the shoulder plate, then the forearm guard, then the chest piece. Each piece was heavy, cumbersome, yet Elias removed them with deliberate care. Kyrak stopped mid-lunge. His claws froze in the air. He blinked. The human's armor had seemed formidable, yes, but it was the human inside it that mattered. And now that human was standing bare-chested, revealing a body sculpted not by vanity but by experience. Muscles tense, scars visible across his arms and torso, Elias exuded strength, resilience, and confidence that no metal could ever grant. The Ziran audience gasped. Whispers ran like wildfire through the ranks. What is he doing? He is vulnerable. How can a human survive without armor?" Kyrak's tail twitched nervously. His claws scraped the canyon floor. Pride warred with astonishment, confusion mingling with fear. Elias spoke calmly, almost as if reading Kyrak's mind. "Do you see now?" he asked. "This is not about armor, it never was. Strength is in the mind, the body, and the will. The armor is only a tool. You fight with anger, with pride, relying on speed and strength alone. That is weakness." He had never been so aware of another being's strength without weapons, without claws, without energy blades. The human stood there, bare and unprotected, yet more dangerous than any opponent Kyrak had faced. Every muscle, every scar told a story of survival, endurance, and courage. The human had survived battles, endured pain, and stood ready to continue, not because of armor, but because of spirit. For the first time, Kyrak hesitated in battle. His claws, once quick and certain, now wavered. Pride, anger, and confusion clashed inside him. He had mocked these humans, called them weak, laughed at their armor. And now he realized he had been blind. They were not weak. They were something else entirely, something stronger than he had imagined. The human's formation remained just behind Elias, steady, disciplined, and confident. They watched without fear, waiting, ready to support their leader. The control, the patience, and the courage radiating from Elias was unlike anything Kyrak had encountered. It was terrifying and inspiring at the same time. Kyrak growled low in his throat, tail lashing. He lunged again, slower this time, less recklessly, testing the human's limits. Elias met each attack with calm precision, redirecting energy, using his opponent's speed against him. Each strike Kyrak made, each movement, was absorbed, countered, or deflected without injury. He realized something important. He could not rely on strength alone. He needed strategy, control, patience. The young Zirin stumbled back, chest heaving. Doubt gnawed at him, yet curiosity sparked. Who was this human? How could a creature so small, so seemingly frail, command such power and respect? He glanced at his peers, who were watching with awe and confusion. Some had begun whispering about the human's courage. Some questioned their own assumptions. Pride, arrogance, and disbelief mingled across their faces. Elias lowered his gaze slightly, observing Kyrak carefully. "You have skill," he said, voice calm. "But skill without control is wasted. Pride is a chain. Anger is a weapon that cuts the wielder first. Learn if you can." But every instinct told him to pause, to observe, to understand. The human's strength was not in weapons, not in armor, but in something deeper, something he could not yet grasp. And in that pause, something shifted in Kyrak. The duel was no longer about winning or losing. It was a lesson, a revelation. He had mocked the humans, laughed at their armor, and thought them weak. Now he faced the truth. The humans were strong because they had endured, because they had learned, because they had survived when others had failed. Kyrak's eyes narrowed, not with anger, but with a flicker of respect. The human before him, standing bare-chested and calm, was not weak. He was powerful in a way the young Zirin had never understood. And that realization, sudden and shocking, shook him to the core. The canyon fell silent, the dust settling around them. Both warriors faced each other, breathing hard, one with pride, anger, and doubt, the other with calm, confidence, and the quiet power of experience. The duel was far from over, but the balance had shifted. Kyrak no longer attacked recklessly. He observed, hesitated, and for the first time felt the weight of the human spirit pressing against his own strength. The heat of the twin suns pressed down on the canyon floor, but it was not the weather that made Kyrak sweat. It was the realization that he had underestimated the humans. His pride, once as solid as the jagged cliffs around him, was beginning to crack. He could not understand how one human alone could move with such confidence and power. Every move Elias Shaw made was deliberate, measured, and impossible to predict. Every step seemed to anticipate Kyrak's instincts before he even acted. The armor had been only the beginning. The human himself was far more dangerous than Kyrak could have imagined. Kyrak crouched, tail flicking nervously. His claws dug into the stone floor as he studied Elias. The human's chest rose and fell evenly, muscles tense and controlled, scars telling the story of countless battles. Despite the obvious physical conditioning, it was not brute strength that commanded respect. It was the control, the calm in every movement, the certainty in every glance. Kyrak's mind struggled to comprehend it. In his culture, strength meant speed, skill, and power. Pride was measured by the ability to dominate. Yet here stood a human who possessed strength beyond the scale of raw power, a strength rooted in mind, body, and will. The other Zirins watched in stunned silence. Some began whispering among themselves, eyes wide. "He is not afraid," one muttered. "How can he survive without armor?" Another shook his head. "It is impossible. Humans are weak." And yet the evidence before them contradicted every assumption they had been taught. The human leader had stood firm, unshaken, and deflected every attack. Kyrak's breathing was shallow. He flexed his claws and tail, trying to summon the confidence he usually carried like armor. "It is only luck," he hissed under his breath. "I will break him, I must." He leaped forward again, claws aiming for the human's chest, shoulder, and neck in a series of furious strikes. But Elias moved with ease, sidestepping, redirecting, and parrying. Every blow Kyrak launched met with resistance, yet no human was harmed. Kyrak faltered. His movements were less precise now, more desperate, fueled by frustration rather than skill. He had never fought like this before. Every duel had ended with his victory, every opponent crushed beneath his claws. And yet here he was, facing a human who endured and adapted. Each missed strike, each failed attempt chipped away at Kyrak's confidence. Finally he stopped, breathing hard, claws lowered slightly. His tail flicked nervously. He could feel Elias' eyes on him, calm and unrelenting. The human did not advance. He did not taunt. He simply stood, waiting, assessing. It was infuriating. Kyrak felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity that he had never experienced before. Elias spoke, his voice even, almost gentle, yet carrying authority. "Do you see now, Kyrak? This is not about strength or speed alone. It is about understanding. It is about control, patience, and knowing yourself." Kyrak's jaw tightened. He wanted to roar, to strike, to show that he was the stronger warrior. But the words, simple and measured, struck deep. They forced him to pause, to consider something he had never allowed himself to consider. That power was more than physical ability. The young Zirin circled, claws extended, trying to regain the advantage. His mind raced, searching for an opening, a weakness he could exploit. Yet every time he thought he had found one, Elias anticipated the move and adjusted. It was as if the human could read him, not magically, but through observation, experience, and understanding. Kyrak had never faced such a fighter. Every opponent had relied on instinct. Elias relied on strategy, patience, and the careful use of his own strength. Kyrak's eyes narrowed. He had mocked the humans, laughed at their armor, called them weak and primitive. And now every assumption he had made was being shattered. He realized that the humans' armor, heavy and cumbersome as it appeared, was only a tool to protect their body while their mind calculated the next move. The real weapon was Elias himself, disciplined, resilient, and fearless. A sudden movement caught Kyrak's eye. Elias shifted slightly, a deliberate step forward. It was slow, almost casual, yet it carried the weight of inevitability. Kyrak realized too late that the human had prepared a maneuver. Before he could react, Elias launched a controlled strike, not with the intent to harm, but with precision to unbalance. Kyrak's momentum carried him forward, claws grazing the ground, and he stumbled slightly. The realization hit him like a shockwave. Elias did not fear him. He was in complete control. The canyon fell silent except for the harsh breathing of the two warriors and the whisper of dust in the wind. The Ziran spectators leaned forward, eyes wide, claws twitching nervously. Some were whispering in disbelief. "He is surviving," one muttered. "Without armor, without fear," another shook his head. "Impossible." The realization that raw strength alone could not guarantee victory unsettled him more than any blow ever could. Elias spoke again, voice calm but firm. "Strength is not in the weapon, nor in the armor, nor in the speed of your strike. True strength comes from the mind and the heart, from knowing yourself and your limits and using every tool wisely. You have potential, Kyrak, but you waste it when you fight without control." And yet here he was, struggling against a single human who stood unarmed in spirit, disciplined in mind, and fearless in heart. Kyrak took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He circled, claws flexed, tail twitching. Every instinct screamed to attack, to overpower, to prove superiority. But another instinct, one he did not fully understand, urged caution. To strike recklessly now would be foolish. Elias had shown him that strength without control was dangerous, even to the one wielding it. The human shifted again, calm and deliberate. Each movement was precise, purposeful, yet relaxed. It was as if Elias had calculated every possible outcome and adjusted for each one. Kyrak felt a flicker of fear, the first he had ever felt in combat against a human. Fear not of death, but of being bested, outmatched, and humbled before others. Pride was difficult to swallow, and yet it throbbed like a wound in his mind. Suddenly, Elias stepped closer, his bare chest visible in the sunlight. The scars and muscles told a story of survival, endurance, and strength that no Ziran training could replicate. Kyrak froze mid-strike, claws extended as a realization struck him like lightning. The armor, the weapons, the technique, it was all secondary. The true power of this human lay in his experience, resilience, and unwavering spirit. Kyrak's mind raced. How could a species so small, so seemingly fragile, possess such strength? Every story he had heard of humans emphasized weakness, but the reality before him contradicted every assumption. Elias stood there, calm, disciplined, and ready, demonstrating that strength was more than claws, speed, or scales. It was endurance, intelligence, and courage. The canyon held its breath. Dust swirled around the two warriors as they faced each other. Kyrak felt the weight of every gaze, every whisper from the Ziran spectators. Pride warred with awe, arrogance with respect. He realized that he had been blind, judging humans by appearances rather than understanding their true power. Elias spoke softly, his voice carrying across the canyon. "Do you see now, Kyrak? The human spirit cannot be measured by armor or weaponry. It is endurance, courage, and intelligence combined. You fight with anger, you fight with pride. Learn control, and you may become more than just strong." He had mocked the humans, laughed at their armor, and dismissed them as weak. Now the truth was undeniable. They were strong, far stronger than he had ever imagined, not because of metal, but because of spirit. A hush fell over the canyon. Even the wind seemed to pause, dust lingering in the air as if waiting for the next move. Kyrak's chest rose and fell rapidly. He had faced many opponents, many challenges, yet none had shaken him like this human. Every muscle in his body tensed, ready to strike, yet he hesitated. Hesitation was foreign to him, yet it filled him with a strange clarity. For the first time in his life, Kyrak understood that strength was not only measured by speed or power, by claws or teeth. True strength lay in endurance, in adaptability, in the mind and the heart. And standing before him, calm and disciplined, Elias Shaw embodied that truth. Kyrak flexed his claws, took a deep breath, and lowered them slightly. His tail stopped twitching. Pride warred with awe, but the young warrior knew that this duel was no longer about defeating a human by sheer force. It was about understanding, about learning, and perhaps about respect. Elias' eyes met his, calm, steady, unwavering. "Are you ready to fight with understanding, Kyrak, or will you continue with pride and anger?" The duel was not over. It had merely changed. And Kyrak knew that what came next could shape not only his fate, but the fate of the humans and Zirans alike. The canyon was silent, save for the shifting dust and the soft scraping of claws against stone. Kyrak crouched low, breathing heavily, his muscles tense, tail twitching with a restless energy he had never felt before. Every movement Elias Shaw made, even standing still, radiated power, patience, and confidence. The human's calm presence unsettled him more than any strike ever could. His pride, once unshakable, was now cracking under the weight of understanding. Kyrak's claws dug into the rocky floor as he circled, trying to regain the advantage. His mind raced. In every duel he had fought, the outcome had always been certain. Strength, speed, and instinct ruled the battlefield. He had never met an opponent who could read him, who could endure his assaults, who could stand calm and unflinching in the face of his fury. And yet, Elias Shaw had done all that and more. The young Ziran's chest heaved. Sweat ran down his scales, stinging his eyes. He had underestimated humans. He had mocked them, laughed at their armor, called them weak, primitive, and foolish. And now he was beginning to understand that he had been blind. The armor was not the true power. The humans themselves were. Their resilience, courage, and intelligence were weapons far sharper than claws or teeth. Elias shifted slightly, stepping forward, and his bare-chested form glimmered in the harsh light. Muscles flexed, scars visible across arms and chest, telling silent stories of survival and endurance. The human's eyes locked on Kyrak, calm and unwavering, and for a moment the young Ziran felt as if he were being measured, understood, and weighed. "You still fight with anger," Elias said, his voice steady, carrying across the canyon floor. "Pride clouds your judgment. Strength is more than speed and claws. True power comes from control, patience, and understanding. You waste what you have when you fight without thought." He struck with precision, moving faster than before, using everything he had learned in his years of training. Elias responded as he had before, sidestepping, deflecting, and redirecting, each movement deliberate, controlled, and effortless. Every strike Kyrak made was absorbed, met, or countered without causing harm. Frustration surged through the young Ziran. He had never been denied victory so completely. Every opponent had fallen beneath his claws, every challenge had ended in triumph. Yet here he was, meeting a human who endured, adapted, and responded with calm precision. Kyrak's muscles trembled, his claws hesitated midair, and for the first time he questioned his own strength. Elias did not attack. He simply waited, watching, calculating, a calm presence that seemed to fill the entire canyon. He did not need to strike. His mere readiness, his discipline, and his resilience were enough to challenge Kyrak's arrogance. The Ziran spectators leaned forward, eyes wide, whispers spreading like wildfire. "He survives without armor," one muttered. Another shook his head. "Impossible. How can a human endure without protection?" Even the older warriors who had fought humans for decades looked on with uncertainty. Something was shifting. The humans were no longer the prey. They were something different, something more. Kyrak's tail flicked nervously. He lunged again, but this time he moved slower, more cautiously. He realized that reckless attacks would only leave him exposed. Elias did not fear him. He was calm, controlled, and ready. To strike without thought now would be foolish. Kyrak's mind, for the first time, worked to analyze, to adapt, rather than relying on raw instinct. Elias spoke again, voice carrying softly. "You are fast and strong, Kyrak, but speed and strength alone do not win battles. Control yourself. Observe, learn, adapt. That is how humans endure where others fail." The young Ziran stepped back, breathing heavily, his mind racing. He began to notice the small details he had ignored before, the way humans moved as a unit, covering each other, the way they adapted their tactics to the terrain, the quiet coordination that made them more than the sum of their parts. Each observation chipped away at his arrogance. Suddenly, a group of Ziran scouts advanced from the cliffs, intending to flank the humans. Kyrak's ears twitched. The humans were surrounded, and yet they did not panic. Elias signaled quietly, and the humans shifted as one, adjusting their positions with precision, turning what seemed like a trap into a controlled maneuver. The Ziran scouts faltered, confused by the humans' discipline. Kyrak's eyes widened. They were not weak. They were clever. They could anticipate, adapt, and overcome challenges that would have defeated most opponents. And their leader, Elias, was the center of it all, calm, strategic, and unshakable. A sudden movement drew Kyrak's attention. A human soldier picked up a fallen piece of equipment and used it to create a makeshift barrier, redirecting the Xiran attack without hesitation. Another human triggered a dust trap, blinding the attackers for a moment, and the humans shifted again, coordinating like a single organism. Kyrak's jaw dropped. The human's ingenuity was astonishing. Every move was calculated, every action purposeful. He realized with a growing sense of awe that the humans' true strength lay not in their weapons or armor, but in their adaptability, intelligence, and courage. They had endured countless challenges, survived when others had failed, and faced every obstacle with determination. The young Xiran's pride wavered under the weight of this revelation. Elias approached slowly, eyes never leaving Kyrak. "You see now," he said quietly, "strength is not only in the body. It is in the mind, the heart, and the will to endure. You have potential, Kyrak, but you waste it when you fight without understanding." The human's courage, intelligence, and adaptability made them formidable opponents, far beyond what he had imagined. The canyon seemed to hold its breath. Dust hung in the air as both warriors faced each other, muscles tense, eyes locked. Kyrak realized that this duel was no longer about proving superiority. It was about learning, understanding, and acknowledging a strength he had never considered. For the first time, he questioned everything he had been taught. The Xiran way of valuing speed, power, and aggression was incomplete. Humans had taught him a new lesson, that endurance, strategy, and courage could surpass raw strength. Kyrak's breathing slowed. He lowered his claws slightly, tail still twitching. The anger that had fueled his attacks was replaced by a strange clarity. He observed, analyzed, and began to understand the humans' methods. Every move they made, every adjustment, every display of courage was part of a greater strategy. Elias watched him calmly, unyielding. He did not taunt, did not provoke. He simply stood, a living demonstration of the human spirit, resilient, disciplined, and fearless. Kyrak felt something he had never felt before, respect. The canyon erupted suddenly. A distant explosion echoed across the valley, signaling a new wave of Xiran forces approaching. Humans were outnumbered, yet they did not panic. Elias signaled them, and they moved with precision, forming defensive positions, coordinating every action. Kyrak realized that the humans' true power lay not only in their endurance and intelligence, but in their unity. They were stronger together, adaptable and fearless in the face of overwhelming odds. Kyrak's mind raced. He could fight with pride, attempt to assert dominance, and risk defeat, or he could observe, learn, and adapt. For the first time, he saw humans not as weak creatures to mock, but as formidable warriors with courage, intelligence, and strength of spirit. The young Xiran stepped back, considering his next move. His pride warred with admiration, anger with curiosity. He realized that to fight these humans and survive, he would need more than claws and speed. He would need understanding, strategy, and courage, the very traits that had allowed humans to endure and thrive where others had failed. Elias met his gaze steadily. "You have potential, Kyrak," he said again, "but you must learn control, patience, and understanding. Only then will you truly be strong." The humans moved as one, disciplined, precise, and fearless. The Xirans advanced, confident in their speed and strength. And Kyrak, standing between them, began to see that strength was not measured in claws, fangs, or armor alone, but in courage, intelligence, endurance, and the will to survive.